We are lucky enough to be tasting two unreleased wines in this episode of Got Somme. What happens in a year in bottle?
A lot. Yeah, probably more than I would give it credit for as well.
Toolangi chief winemaker Kaspar Hermann is back for this part 2 Chardonnay deep dive as we taste a vertical of the wines he's created in the vineyard.
It's exciting. I've never done this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Get an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at one of Yarra's premier wineries and their processes, and wait till you hear what we can expect for future releases. You might want to start saving up for one of them.
This is an Australian wine project that we're proud of, and I feel like in the future this will be one of the important Chardonnay sites of the region, if not the country.
Hello and welcome back to Got Somme, a wine podcast where we are in part 2 of a deep dive into Toolangi wines with Kaspar Hermann, the winemaker down there. And this is, we teased it pretty heavily actually on the last episode, but we have 6 wine glasses each in front of us, 18 total. And we are going to be looking at all of the vintages of wines that you've worked on through the representation of, I guess, the pinnacle of the wine, F Block.
It's exciting. I've never done this.
It's so cool.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
What's really great is we had a bit of an email back and forth last week. You were asking what wines to bring. And I just threw it out there. It would be great to see what 2023, which is in a couple of weeks' time. Is that going to be out?
No, we've just released the 22.
Right.
Like
so
a week ago. So 23, yeah, still, and save your critique. Then there's one more year in bottle.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be tasting unreleased wine.
Yeah.
So a year away.
Yeah.
And then also we've got a first look at 2024.
Yeah, which is going to look pretty weird next to the others, but as you say, good for the evolution of the whole discussion. So,
and I'm so curious, just as the winemaking process of how we go from cloudy 2024 to what I'm going to taste is probably a really beautifully refined 2019. So, Kaspar, thank you so much for coming back. And by that, I mean sticking around 5 minutes past our last record, but a week in time of release.
Yep.
Master Sommelier Santos already got his nose deep into the wines. You excited?
Yeah, very, very excited. Very, very pumped. A lot of differences. Yeah,
between
very cool.
So excited to talk about all of the vintages you've worked on, the conditions of what those years are as we taste and assess throughout the years. So firstly, cheers. Yeah. I don't think we did that in the last episode. Yeah. Cheers to you, Kaspar.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming in.
Can we reach?
Me as well.
Yeah. There we go. The 2019 F Block, your first year. For people who did listen to the last episode, and we hope you did. If not, please feel free to go back. But you arrived mid-January, were harvesting within a month or less than, and then can you take us through that experience of starting a fresh job right at the point of harvest where essentially you're working with someone else's, canopies, right?
The first thing that I may have neglected to mention last time was John Evans, who's the viticulturalist at Toolangi and was there at the time, 2019, actually gave me my first job pruning when I was like 18 and university holidays at Yering Station all those years ago. So I hadn't seen a lot of John since back in the day. So good to reconnect with him, but also to have someone who was on the ground and had grown the fruit. He'd actually planted these vines in F Block, handed on a plate essentially that season. Pretty quick adjustment that had to be made to kind of pay attention to what the hell we were going to do with this fruit. The 19 season, it was relatively stable, you would say. 2018, the previous year, was quite a warm vintage, and then in 19 we had a good bit of rain going into the growing season, but then it was quite dry and quite warm for the end of January, early February. So we're harvesting quite early there. It was instantly recognisable in this fruit from the F Block. So F Block sits at Toolangi right at the top of the hill. It's a little 1 acre parcel only of Gin clone Chardonnay on its own roots. Now, there's a few other plantings of Gin Chardonnay around the Yarra Valley. It's not a hell of a lot. The cuttings were taken from Margaret River by the previous owner. It's somewhat inspired choice, I would say, planted at Toolangi. So you've got inherently in the fruit, you've got a lot of fruit power and flavour, but you've got that Yarra Valley acid line that we are so lucky to have. So the wine's quite different to what you would find from Margaret River, and without that maritime influence that they have there as well. But just like it is a seriously powerful, quite an intense fruit profile, and that flavour acid combo is kind of quite exciting.
I just had it on the palate for the first time, apart from a beautiful long finish, but wow, the acid is building up in my mouth still. I mean, it is relatively
really
young.
flinty.
Yeah.
We're at 5 years, but it's got long way to go if you really want to hold on to it, if you're lucky enough to be able to have the patience. Lots of stone fruit in these wines. Do you think that's Yarra Valley, or do you think that is, Toolangi?
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
To be honest, Angus. I think those kind of nectarine flavors are something that I see a lot in F Block, and then that grapefruit kind of grapefruit acid line is very Yarra. At the top of the hill there, where F Block is, it's a clay loam soil, but the clay's very white. So I don't know if I'm just getting a bit deep on it, but the wine is very chalky, and so that kind of mineral character is kind of obvious to me that trans.
I was going to call a lot of flintiness and cheesecloth and
So this also, I guess, in my learnings about this is a bit of a journey of discovery for me and understanding this site as well. But in 19, because it was warmer season, the flavour part was already there, pretty huge. The acid was also there. I made the choice to not put any of it through Malo. So it's all just like, I wanted to capture that natural acid that it had. And I mean, I would have criticised myself a little bit at the time as well. I was kind of umming and ahhing afterwards, but by that stage it was too late because you had to make a decision. The show goes on, and that's also the thing about winemaking, and particularly coming into something quickly and then having to make a decision. You do just have to decide and move on because there's another decision to make,
Obviously, we're going to explore all of your vintages together, but I can only use my own examples I create podcasts now. That's my job, and Amelia's been with me for most of that journey. And we look back on some of even the Got Somme content that we made, and we're embarrassed by it. Like, we're like, oh my God, we were so crap. How we made things is so different now because we've fine-tuned our workflow and how we operate. And I think we create really high-quality stuff. And we even joke now, in 5 years' time, we'll laugh at ourselves and how we operate now. Is there a bit of you looking back on 2019 going, God, I wish I could just impart this little bit of knowledge, whether it be about just spending more time in the vines or just learning how to be a better winemaker?
It's the wines seem to have some really good energy about them in 19, which I think you can see, as I think someone mentioned, youth is still part of that wine.
Definitely.
Yeah, it goes a long time.
Yeah, it is. That's 6 years old now, which is kind of probably, I would suggest, like an optimal time to start considering this wine. But yeah, probably I'd say the strongest vintages you would have to say are probably 19, 21, 22.
The 2020. So we're 12 months officially with Toolangi at that point.
Yeah.
When you finally got your hands on the actual canopies themselves, much change, or is it still just letting the wines express themselves from where they've been?
We're becoming a lot more focused now on soil health at Toolangi. That's something that we're really trying to bring back, and also pruning practices for the ongoing health of the vines as well. So particularly where we've got it at Toolangi, we're lucky we've got a lot of the vineyards on rootstock, and we've been doing some rejuvenation of late the last couple of years where we've replanted 3 of the 11 hectares onto rootstock.
Sarah Crowe had this really great piece when we spoke about when she took over from Dr. Bailey Caritas.
Yeah.
And I remember that she took over. There was the announcement in the media release that Sarah Crowe is now Yarra Yerin's chief winemaker, and the vintage that came out soon after that, she had no hands on.
Right.
By the time we released wines, they're 2 years old. So I'd been there for less than about 6 months, and we were releasing the 2012 vintage.
Oh, which you wouldn't have had hands on.
I didn't make. So, but there's these long loyal customers who came to that release tasting and were looking at me going, the wines are different.
Funny, Sarah. That's really interesting. Perception.
So they were already expecting a change. So in a way, it wasn't that difficult then to start making those small little tweaks and shifts just to try and understand.
And she just said there's this interesting perception. I had nothing to do with it, but because people were worried about their favourite wine being changed. Did you have any of that feedback, with that 2019/2020 where you were getting, feedback from buyers, punters, mum, dads, people like myself saying, hey, I don't like or I love where this is going?
A little bit of both, I would say. Yeah, not heaps of it, to be honest, but there was, particularly going out in the trade with the supporting the wines with the distributor. A lot of people who, used to buy the old Toolangi were used to big Chardonnays with oodles of flavour, and it's seeing them now kind of pared back a little bit and being probably a little bit more food friendly. Let's use that as a term. Their observations for sure, but I guess maybe it's just people being kind, but mostly it's been kind of like good feedback about the direction and bring some focus to what's
It's
happening.
certainly a much more modern approach, for sure, with what people is drinking these days.
Yeah.
Definitely.
2019 you described as stable. I think was that the word you used?
For the harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
albeit a little bit warmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2020, what would we describe that year as a full year as a winemaker?
This is just the marketing people are not going to like this, but cold, wet, and horrible.
No, I love that because that's what
How'd you say it?
Michael Dillon said that as well. He's like,
Yeah.
we've had a horrible year. I think
It
the
was a
23
pretty good
harvest.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
So it was just cold and struggled to ripen.
Yeah, the ripening part wasn't so bad, but it just wasn't, there was not much sunlight. So you had sort of, the red wines had much more pale colours, for example, and the fruit flavours in the Pinots and the Shirazes and the Cabernets and whatnot in the Yarra in 2020 were just a lot less vibrant as a result of being cloudy conditions pretty much the whole season.
I like to have the 20 and come back to the 19.
Yeah.
And I feel it more flinty, more Chablis-like, actually.
Which one, the 19?
Yeah. I find it so fresh and so lively still. I prefer the 19 over the 20 now. Yeah.
It's definitely turned up a little bit. The volume's up a touch.
I did jump ahead to the 2021.
That's right, let's
and
go.
I can already tell you that's my favourite out of the three.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
What is it about this that's different for me and my amateur palate? Because this is me. Is this
I think you're getting the best of the previous two.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is straight on my palate. Like, I don't know if it's obviously a personal taste, but
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, immediately this is.
But yeah, there's a progression of, and there was 3 years of understanding the site and the season as well. That balance of those, the fruit flavors definitely in that stone fruit spectrum as well. But that you've got that ripe grapefruit kind of flavor there happening as well.
I know nothing about the harvesting. I just know kind of, I don't even know. I'm asking a question, I guess. But you want warmer / average conditions to be able to have the choice, right? It's like impending bad weather, you try and pick before it. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah, or
what's the
be-
percentage of importance those last few weeks on the vine?
Oh, it's everything.
Really?
Yeah. Like you can, like days will make a difference sometimes.
That's crazy.
That can really upset some of your colleagues at times. People don't like change or changing the plan. I try to we're in our program because it's a little bit bigger than what we're just looking at here.
Yeah.
But we try and set the week at harvest time. We'll set like a week ahead, and there's a bit of buffer in there for things to move around a little bit. But usually you can get the weather. You can get the weather up to see what's happening in the week ahead. And if you have a storm coming or something, then you do have to adjust your plan accordingly. But if you're trying to make a wine like this and you've got 5 days to do what would normally be like 7 or 9 days of ripening, then sometimes you've got to weather that storm and let the fruit stay there, recover from the rain event if that's what's happening, because you get a dilution effect in the fruit. The vines will take up the sugar, dilute the flavour and the sugars, and then they've kind of got to come back again.
Hope for some sun.
Yeah, so in a year like
And warmth.
21, that was devoid of that issue,
Yeah.
which is massive when it comes to making it easier to pick the right day.
But I just want to break that down for people who might be in the same boat as me, just love wine, but
Yeah.
don't really understand it. Like, let's say, and I'm making a 5-cent coin style circle in my fingers, kind of like a chef's kiss hand symbol. And then that's like the concentrated juice that you're really looking forward to. And then you're like, we need to weather this next rain event. It expands to a 10-cent coin, and that is just water that the roots have taken in. And that would dilute that beautiful concentrated flavor.
Yeah.
So you're saying what we then do is wait till it gets back down to that 5-cent coin. Probably a horrible analogy, my apologies.
Yeah.
But get rid of that excess water that wasn't there, and then we start to pick.
Yeah, essentially.
Yes,
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's it. But different vineyards will have different uptakes in amounts of water that are taken up, and you can try and I've spoken about this with colleagues in the past about if we wait for the canopy to dry, the vines haven't taken up the water, let's just get in there and whip it off straight after the rain event. You know, that's a concept as well. And then even back in the cellar, making sure that you run the fruit over a sorting table that sieves out any excess water or what have you. I guess the best scenario is that you have a week where you're coming into the zone for picking and you don't have to worry about the rain.
Right.
But life doesn't always work like that.
And we're hoping like March, end of March?
Yeah, like usually for Toolangi, it's been anywhere from like mid-February.
Yeah.
Through
So
to
2019?
Yeah, through to, I don't know what the latest that we picked there is, but I want to say it's like it's well into the second week of March.
Right. Would you, ideally, can you go too far?
You can. Yeah.
Right. So like end of March isn't like ideal where, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, in terms of as long as the sugar level didn't get too high.
the
'Cause
weather's fine.
Yeah,
And
well, maybe Angus. I don't know. Like, I mean, the crop load on the vine basically determines how quickly the fruit's going to ripen as well.
Right.
So you've got that as a factor. There's quite a few factors going on.
Interesting.
But for us, like for a wine like this, you know, ideally the flavour ripening is happening around the kind of 12 to 12.5 Beaumet level, which means the wine will end up being 13 to 13.5 alcohol. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
A byproduct will be sulfur of grapes, right? Fermentation.
Yeah, we do
Naturally.
we'll add some
And then you
sulfur for the purposes of antioxidation and as an antimicrobial kind of.
Does colder years need less or higher acidity, or does it influence?
Well, the stabilization part. So if you've got inherently more acid in your wine, then you've got the potential to have more dropout of wine crystal or the wine diamonds, you know, in the bottle.
Yeah.
So we generally put the wines through. Well, they overwinter in the barrel, so you have a natural cold stabilization occurring in the cold cellar. And then when it goes to tank, we usually put we clap the cooling on to simulate the temperature. It's about 4 or 5 degrees, the same as what it would be in a fridge. And we do that for, we say 2 weeks, but it's never has 2 weeks of being really cold. It's usually about a week. And some people will push it further down towards 0, but I'm always worried about that. I'd rather simulate what it's going to be like in the fridge for a couple of days in a tank before it's bottled. Then it gets bottled. And if someone puts it in the freezer and it throws crystals in the bottle, well, tough luck. You've abused that wine,
Yes.
you silly person. And, you know, you've got to respect it.
2021,
Yep.
a great blend between 2019 and 2020 and learnings.
Yeah.
2022, which we were lucky enough to taste on the last episode, but not side by side in this vertical. Tell us what that year was like for you. Vintage, harvest, yield, what was it?
Yeah, so we had some really poor flowering conditions going into 22, which was quite challenging. So we had a tiny, tiny crop, like 1 ton to the acre. So we literally had, I think, it might have been like more like 1.2 perhaps. Ended up with 5 barriques in 2022, which is about half of what we had in 21. Tiny, tiny yields, but what we found was same number of bunches on the vine, but fewer berries. And the berries themselves had quite thick skins. I mean, Gin Clone Chardonnay inherently has quite thick skins, but this was kind of dialed up a notch.
Yep.
So, yeah, had to be quite careful about, I guess, phenolics in the wine. So, the white tannin, white wine version of tannins. So with this wine, it's usually whole bunch press with the F Block. We also make another cuvee called Paul's Lane, which inherently gets destemmed and crushed for a bit of extra texture, but that's a different clone. So with this one, trying to be quite gentle with it, but structurally, I think it's quite concentrated, but quite a deep, probably one of the more impressive wines in the lineup, I would say, in terms of its concentration for sure.
Definitely more concentrated. Acidity is more balanced on this one already. I think the 2 first ones, definitely more acidic, I find, and then there's evolution. More texture, a little more richness, but still a lovely balance of acidity.
Which one are you most proud of? You can jump forward to the 2024, but from 2019 to 2024, the 6 vintages that we are tasting today. And why? What makes you proud?
Well, looking at these now, Angus, probably the 21's probably the one I'm proud of. It looks like that. It looks like I have been paying some level of attention to what's been happening.
I said it was straight away on the
yeah.
palate. I was like, whoa, this is something.
No, and I think it's still like a long way from showing its best as well. So it's still got that vibrancy. But I don't know. The 22, I'd say, probably is the most impressive wine in the lineup for me because it grabs you with its concentration. It's got a lot more grip on the palate too.
2022 might be like the wine drinker's wine.
Yeah.
But let's say when you're sitting down with Sam and your mates in the Yarra, you want to put 2021 in front of them.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Like,
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think it's a cool wine. I think it shows off like an awesome year for the Yarra. You're still seeing the hallmarks of that special little plot next to the forest. So yeah, this is our current release. So we're usually trying to keep the F Block in bottle for a year post its bottling.
That's pretty good too. That's pretty impressive as well that you guys are able to do that.
It's important we vintage roll with the Paul's Lane and the Toolangi Chardonnay, but this one we want to hang on to a special release for it. So we had a bunch of trade out to the vineyard recently and I tasted the wine in the paddock, which was fun. So you guys open offer next time you're out our way. Please come by. Yeah, I think it's just 22s with those tiny crops are like pretty cool, interesting wines that probably offer structurally something that's quite different to the previous 3 vintages.
So that's a week old. So as this episode gets released so it's been out for 3 weeks as this episode drops. So this is what people can be tasting alongside potentially a lot of people like to buy the wine as we talk about it and drink alongside it. But thank you for what we're about to experience, which is the bottle of wine, which is the 2023, which is going to be available in a year's time, pretty much to the day.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about what 2023 offers?
So also offers a year with tiny yields again, so similar to 22, but probably a vintage that I should have said as well. In 2022, the actual vintage part outside of the flowering conditions was dry and like reasonably stable, so good colours in the reds, and obviously good structure and everything. 23 was there was a bit more. It was cooler. So it's probably going to, again, to be honest, I've looked at this once since bottling, so this is...
I'm not going to... And we're not...
than stone fruit.
Yeah, okay.
More for me, orchard fruit than stone fruit.
It's funny, I get like... and we're not critiquing this wine. This wine isn't available. You don't want us to see this wine, essentially, if that makes sense. Like we said, you're lucky enough to hold on to wines till they're ready to release. And to people who are listening, the 2022 is delicious.
Yeah.
Go get it. But 2023 for me, idiot, so different in this lineup that if I'm used to this, my point is it is such a different smell.
Yeah.
What happens in a year in bottle for this to transform itself so much?
Oh, well, a lot. Yeah, probably more than I would give it credit for as well. But it's, like 2023 was definitely like the ripeness level was probably dialed down a little bit compared to the previous 2 at least. But that general softening and kind of it does come together a lot more with time in the bottle. And to be honest, that looks a bit more like together than the last time I looked at it as well. Because this was a wine that went fully through Malo in 23. It remained unsulfured for its entire year until just at bottling time, which is something else that we're kind of moving towards with the Chardonnay as well, from a full expression point of view.
Yeah.
And to me, I can still see I still get the same kind of energetic expression that I do with the other wines for this one, which kind of it looks recognisable to me as being it's
definitely.
It's been bottled as the right wine.
Yeah, it's not, you haven't got it wrong.
I think the time in the bottle more tertiary a little bit. That now is for me. I feel more orchard fruit, more apple and pear, more quince than that stone fruits.
But I think as well that's an expression of that season too. Though that spectrum is definitely 23.
Right.
Yeah. And even I'd say this is probably the most floral of all of the wines.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. More floral,
Which was something that kind of that was the happening of 23.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty, and I think it will look really, really nice with more time in bottle for sure.
How is it different to 2023?
So 2024, we had slightly better conditions at flowering. So the crop load was coming back a little bit towards normal. And the probably hallmark of 2024 was that we had we had these rain events which were huge. Like we'd have 100 mils of rain in 24 hours, and we had a few of those. However, by the time harvest rolled around, the rain had stopped, so we had like basically a dry harvest period. But we also had some warm conditions, which were like 3 days at 38.
Jeez.
Where even overnight the temperatures were quite high.
Yeah.
So in the cellar, we had some pretty high, like some of the Pinot ferments we had were pretty high numbers.
Yeah.
Luckily for the 24 F block, we picked this before that heat spike. I think this was picked on like around the 1st of March this year. Which was probably about a week earlier than I would have told you at Christmas time that we would have picked it.
Oh,
so
right, cool.
We had like
That's way early.
yeah, we lost a week.
Yeah, because you saw this impending heat.
Well, basically, I hadn't predicted that we were going to get the shift that we did from a hot spell.
Yeah.
That we had in early Feb, and then we hadn't started picking then, but then. Later on, in early March, I think it was like around the 2nd, 3rd of March, we had a week where it was like pretty hot.
This is so cool I haven't tried it yet. I've smelt it. Obviously smells very different. This is so March 1st, this was picked.
Yeah.
We're going to we're recording this on the 13th of May.
Yeah.
So we're only a couple of what has happened in 2 months.
Yeah.
And what is going to happen to get us to this point because of what we just tried with the 2023. How does this go from cloudy to what I just experienced with your 2023 and previous vintages?
Yeah, so the cloudy nature is, this wine's buzzing out its last like 2 grams of sugar. So it should be hopefully nearly at the point of dryness, but we do wild yeast fermentations in all the wines, so it can take a little while for them to finish off. Once it does settle, it'll hopefully begin its malolactic fermentation if that's not already happening now. It's quite likely it's already underway. I haven't looked at it this morning, but it's still got that real spark of zestiness, which tells me that it's still yet to malo.
Yeah.
So this we'll pick the fruits, we'll whole bunch press them. We'll stir we've settled it overnight we'll put the cooling on. If it's a warm day, we'll chill the juice down. And that's basically just to slow the onset of ferment. And then we'll add a little bit of sulfur at that point to protect the wine against any kind of bad bacteria that can get acetic acid bacteria when there's lots of sugar around. I'm kind of against that. So we'll add a homeopathic dose of sulfur at that point as juice. Chill it down so it's about 10 degrees. Stir the tank up with all the solids and all the goodness that's been pressed out of it. Run it to barrel. Fill the barrels like 2/3 full so that when the ferment comes to life, there's somewhere for all the foam and the froth to be captured rather than spewing out of the top and losing all the good wine. And then once the ferment's like pretty much coming towards the end or it's slowing down, we'll then top the barrels up. So we'll use
oxidation.
We'll use these 2 barrels to top these 3 barrels, and then suddenly we've got barrels that are that far down, and then we'll just keep topping them up we top every 2 weeks in the cellar, and just checking in and tasting the wine, making sure it looks like it's on track. And to me that looks like the sugar's just about gone now, which is good to see.
I didn't expect it to be drinkable.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Well, all of the sulfur that we added initially is completely gone now.
Yeah.
If you drink a lot of this, you probably run to the toilet.
Yeah, you might get a bit gassy.
Okay, right. Yeah, but I didn't expect it from its color, and it's so new. It's I just didn't expect it to be in that spot. It's really cool.
So we're lucky to have 7 whole barriques of this year.
Oh, wow.
So it's very exciting.
Great yield. Nice.
It seems less floral than the 23.
Yeah, well, I think as well, Carlos, it's still in that murky stage where
true.
There's
a lot of
muddled
change.
by
everything.
So it does. The evolution to clarity is a big one.
For sure.
Yeah. But the flavors where you're probably picking up what's going to happen there. So
kind of a little prediction.
Yeah. I think coming back to the 23, it's kind of looking like a similar kind of vibe to that spectrum as well, I reckon.
I'm not good enough to get that, but I love that that's it.
Well, at least like smelling this one now, it's had a bit more air. You're probably getting... Again, that's hopefully where the wine's going to go in the next 12 months.
At the price point, for sure, especially with 2 kids and starting up a podcast company. But it is a special occasion and it tastes like that. So thank you for the work that you do in it. And you can taste that experience across this venture.
No, cheers.
My question that I want to end, and you might have one as well, Carlos, but my closing question is, I always love, because we follow Toolangi, we follow Matt Mary, we follow, Lewin, we follow everyone as a Got Somme account, and I run that. I love to watch the post-harvest celebration, for one, when it's all in, and then also to see the wines that the winemakers are pulling out. It seems like must be like a nice long lunch, and some beautiful wines are brought out. Can you tell us about your 2024 harvest celebration? And did you bring out any ridiculous bottles of wine to celebrate?
Our Toolangi post harvest celebration was like reasonably low key. There was a couple of nice bottles that we pulled out, but yeah, I had somewhat rudely for my colleagues at this workplace, had a bit of one of those last Friday. So we were lucky to have a pair of 2016 Grand Cru Burgundies, which were looking marvellous, and a nice little Premier Cru from 21. So we'll try and get together and have these lunches and pull out these special bottles. And I guess like in our journey with Toolangi, we're still kind of building the history in that cellar, and when we can find these old bottles, we'll whip them out and try them as well. Yeah. And also just trying to learn something from them. But I think checking in with the world of wine is like a really important thing. It's certainly with children, as I can attest to your predicament. It's like not always possible, but it's an investment that I think you've just got to make. Like you have to be like seeing what's happening in the world and see, like, I guess like making a Burgundy variety in the Yarra Valley, we aspire to the wines of the old world, but I'm very conscious about making sure that these are true to Australian. This is an Australian wine project that we're proud of, and I feel like this. Yeah, after 20 years of a few different places around the Yarra Valley making wine, I think this F Block Chardonnay is a spot that is like unique and very special. And I really do believe that its quality is worthy, and that hopefully in the future this will be one of the important Chardonnay sites of the region, if not the country, hopefully.
Nice.
But
I think you are totally right. I think, again, when it comes to blind tasting, and if you're having the right food and the right company and all of that, and you drink a bottle of this wine at the right temperature, right glassware, and you not know what you're drinking, people.
Nice to Sommelier. It can be confused. That's a nice compliment.
People would be like, "Oh, wait a second, where am I?" Because they're very good. So I think that's outstanding work. Yeah.
Oh, cheers. Yeah. Well, it's a journey, and thanks for taking the time to have a listen and have a look at these wines, because it's eye opening. I'm surprised by what's happening. Like I didn't quite realize the evolution is as real as it is, because it feels like we've had 6 very different vintages here, but in the glass it shows that.
They show that they're brothers and sisters at least.
Yeah. 21 is coming back.
That was good. I finished that one. That was wonderful.
I think it's the one that on the glass right now, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Kaspar, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck with whatever's next in the future, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years and beyond. But at the moment, absolutely smashing this. And F Block's a testament to the Yarra, and it is a special occasion wine. So congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.